This is episode number 1. Well, Christian, welcome to the beginning of your podcast around your book, Breaking the IRS Press. How is your day treating you, sir?
My day is good. It's a cold day here in Houston, so that's good. Everything's, fine over here.
Yeah, you don't get many cold days in Houston, do you?
At all.
That's awesome.
It's either hot or scorching hot over here.
That's right. Well, I'm super excited to be here. Your new Amazon bestselling book is out, Breaking the IRS Press. It's a guide to finding relief from your tax burdens without ruining your life. And you've done a great job on this book, by the way, and you've really woven in some of your background with basketball and things. So it's a fun read. And what we want to do on this podcast is we're going to go through every chapter of your book and do a short episode on every chapter so that you and your audience can understand more about what's going in it and why did you write each chapter and who's it for. And then obviously we're going to give people an opportunity to go get a copy of your book. So let's dive into this thing and talk about, all right, what is an IRS press? What do you mean by that?
So with the IRS press, people got to understand that the IRS is pressuring you to pay your tax bill, right? They're a collection agency. Kind of equivalent to in basketball. When there's a press, people are usually picking you up full court, and it's very intense, very chaotic if you don't know how to beat it. So one thing I wanted to do is kind of correlate those two to kind of show you how to beat the IRS press, and also if you're a basketball head, how to beat a full court press too as well.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and that's a good way to look at it. And I think a lot of people don't consider the IRS as a collection agency, but that's really what they are, right?
Yep, they are. Yeah, they're trying to just collect on bills, not paid.
That's right. And what you do, part of what you do is help relieve the pressure of that press because of what you and your team can do. So you've got a story in this introduction. You call it Dad's Story. Why don't you share a little bit about that and how that plays into everything?
Yeah, so my dad's story actually kind of, it's the root of everything. It's who I am. It's kind of like why I got into the accounting spot. So years ago, my dad got in a sticky situation where he basically had a faulty CPA. The CPA did some bad things and ended up, he basically ended up with a tax bill of over $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah, I seen the stress that happened with my dad. I said, you know what? Let me take this CPA route really serious and make sure this doesn't happen to him, but also my Americans, here in the United States again too as well.
Yeah. Wow, that's a massive tax bill, all because of the, dare I say, the negligence of a professional who should have been doing the job better, right?
Yeah.
And what we find a lot of times in the world that we live in, people can find themselves in trouble with the IRS. Sometimes through no fault of their own, sometimes through some decisions they've made, restaurant owners not paying payroll taxes to go pay, something else. And they're not doing it, dare I say, maliciously. They're making decisions and those decisions catch up with them and they go, oh no. And they don't know what to do. They think, oh, I've got to file bankruptcy or whatever. And part of what you do in your book is there's another alternative. There is a way to kind of get the IRS off your back, relieve that press. Talk a little bit about maybe some of the strategies that we are going to unpack in the book, but how can somebody, if they find themselves kind of in that situation at the very beginning, breathe some life into them, reduce some of the anxiety and stress and go, no, here's what we can do.
Basically what I do, I just present all the options. Usually they say, oh, I have to pay this bill. I have to pay it. Sometimes I'll take it a step back, tell them, hold on, here are your options on how to defeat this press. And that's all I do. Based on their story and what's going on in the particular case, I present the options. That right there automatically just gives them relief on okay, I can do something about this other than just pay this full bill.
Yeah, that's great. And I know later in the book, we're going to talk about the coach aspect. And a lot of times, and that's obviously coming out of your sports background and things, but you're a coach to your clients many times because so many times we don't know the options.
Yeah.
Right. And I live outside of Lexington, Kentucky. Okay. So Kentucky's world famous for horse racing.
Yeah.
And you get those horses out on the track and you know what they all have is those blinders on, right? To keep them focused. I think a lot of times when people are getting in trouble with the IRS for whatever reason, the blinders come on and they say they don't know that they even have options because they don't know the tax code like you know the tax code. They don't understand the options. And so being able to have that conversation with you and go, you mean I don't have to pay the whole thing? Opens up people's opportunities, right? Is that kind of a common conversation that people have there in the first time that you'd meet with them?
Yeah. That's one of the first things we talk about. We talk about, hey, based on your situation, on what you're giving me, here are your options. Mm-hmm. And you can see kind of, their face light up like, oh, shoot, I didn't know I had options.
Yeah. And just like in playing basketball, the more options you have to run plays, the more you're going to win the game.
Yes.
And really, it's kind of a strange way to look at it, but every taxpayer is in a game with the IRS.
Yep.
And you've got to know how to play the game. You got to know what the rules are, right? We're not going to do anything illegal or unethical. And at the same time, the tax code is there, and they have opportunities. They have plays you can run if you know what they are. And I was somewhere the other day, and somebody was talking about John Wooden. Mm-hmm. And, he won, 10 years straight of championships and things out at UCLA. But he played a lot of the fundamentals, and he also had a lot of plays in his playbook that he had to teach his players so that when they hit the court, they would be able to outmaneuver their opponents. And in a sense, that's kind of what you're giving your clients, is that opportunity, right?
Yep. My business is kind of similar to sports. That's why I want to correlate the two.
Yeah. Well, and you did a great job. And anybody who reads this, they're going to get intrigued with it, because it is definitely not a boring, run-of-the-mill textbook around taxes and IRS and all of that. It is actually a very compelling, story-based conversation. Really, it's you sharing a lot from your background, from sports, basketball, and relating basketball themes. We're going to talk about that in the next episode, talking about great spacing and how that plays in basketball, but how it also plays when you're dealing with the IRS. So it's going to be a fun conversation. So what we're going to do is here in this, it's almost a podcast mini series, right? We're going to do 6 or 7 little episodes, and each one's going to take a little bit more in every chapter of your book. And we want people to go get a copy of your book. They can find it on Amazon. I know sometimes you've got extra copies at the office you want to give out to people, but if they go to breakingtheirspress.com, that's a great place to go to get a copy of Christian's new book, and grab it, read it. And the other thing I guess I want people to understand, Christian, is this is a tax. Being in trouble with the IRS is something that not everybody is going to proclaim, right? Hey, I'm in trouble. At the same time, a lot of business owners find themselves in this. And so I guess I want to encourage the audience and get your perspective of, get this book, read it, and then it might be for you, or it might be for somebody you know in business, at church, at the club. Having this as a resource that you could just hand off to somebody when the conversation comes up. I think we all know people in business who at one time or another have probably gotten something from the IRS. Is that fair?
Yeah. I know a letter has probably came across most likely every business owner's desk.
Yeah, and when you get that letter from the IRS, you go, oh no.
Yep. Some people don't even open it, by the way, just because they're intimidated by those 3 letters.
That's crazy. Yeah, you probably want to open it, and then you want to call Christian.
Yeah.
But get a copy of his book and read it. You're gonna love it. It's really well written. And then look for people in your life that you could just hand that off to be a resource, and then connect them with Christian. So, Christian, thanks for a great introduction and opening podcast for your book, Breaking the IRS Press. I got a little bit of background of what does that mean. Heard your dad's crazy story, and really why you got into doing what you're doing. So we'll come back next week with another episode on talking about spacing and why you need some breathing room. So we'll talk with you then.